Hello, basketball fans. It's me, DC, here for Fantasy Basketball Analyzer to help you get ready for week 3 of the Fantasy NBA and regular NBA season. We're going to break down the schedule like we normally do in a separate video and get into the waiver wire. We're going to do it all in one mega stuff. Partially because I was busy this weekend, but partially last week when I made just the schedule video and like the pace and everything still pretty squishy numbers. It felt a little silly to me to do it separate, even if it's good for my algorithm and views and whatever. So I'm putting it together to try and save you guys some time. Let's go ahead and look at the pace and defensive efficiency. So we do this every week. I take the pace, which is from ESPN's PER listing, and then the defensive efficiency, I don't think I said it last week. I want to try and say it every week. It's from cleaning the glass. I love cleaning the glass. You get great numbers. They cut out some garbage time, so I find the numbers a little more reliable because you can't always count on garbage time. But also, like, I want to give them credit for where they're due. So that's where it comes from. Those two numbers, we average them together and get some totals. These numbers are still going to be a little off, but here are some things I find interesting. Overall, defensive efficiency right now is down. Last season, when they were enforcing like none of this BS foul calling and stuff like that, we started the season and saw offense in the league overall was a little low. This year, the defense is showing a little bit weak right now. We're averaging a 113 or something like that for defensive efficiency. There's a couple outliers. You can look right at the top. Detroit, San Antonio, Indiana, Brooklyn, like these really high over 120 numbers are surprising. They're probably dragging the average up a little bit. Things will settle down as they go on. But seeing this is kind of a great example. If you look down here towards the bottom, Orlando at a 105, based on this metric, says it's a team you don't really want to face. Last week when I said like, we're not going too hard with these numbers, they were up near the top. It was a green highlighted box. Now it's a red highlighted box. That's a big swing to go from towards the top, towards the bottom. These will average out a little bit, but we are getting some good things like San Antonio, high pace, not the strongest defense right now. That makes sense. Oklahoma City, down by the middle. I'm just pulling them out, even though they've had players out and stuff like that. And, you know, they've got young guys. They always seem to play some pretty good defense, at least until they tank and the numbers might look weird later in the season. But they seem to play better defense than you would expect. They've got a 109, puts them in the middle of the pack. That sounds about right. So that will probably hold for the season where we see that. So the numbers are getting a little better. They're still not perfect, but I did go ahead and apply them to the week 3 schedule so we could take a look. So you're now seeing it on your screen, right? Things that jump out. Bad news, Dallas, Denver, Indiana. We got 3 teams only playing 2 games. So be careful with that. It's definitely going to affect some of the waiver wire pickups. I had some names and then I was like, Denver's only got 2 games. I don't know about Bones Hyland. 9 teams have 4 games, which means most teams have 3 games. So you're pretty free to play the guys. You're not giving up too much of an advantage, but if you can scoop up someone who's got 4 games or key 3 games, and we'll talk about when streaming, that is going to give you an advantage. Just a slight anomaly, maybe anomaly is even overstating, just something I noticed about this week. There's a few teams that are playing each other twice. Check out Detroit. They play the Bucks at home at Detroit's home. The Bucks play in Detroit twice with a day of rest. And then also Portland is playing the Suns, or maybe I should say the Suns get to play Portland. Well, Portland's defense is looking a little better. But, you know, Dame's out and everything, and they play them twice this week. So we've got a few teams, there might even be more that didn't catch my eye, but those did jump out to me as, you know, bam, bam. Because it makes Detroit's schedule look bad. They get Bucks, Cleveland. You don't love that for the Pistons, and it's only a 3-game week. But that just kind of stood out to me. Thought it was interesting, but probably doesn't affect your fantasy week too much. So let's take this and go look at back-to-backs. So this feels similar to what we saw with last week. Just a smattering of back-to-backs a little bit earlier. One team with a Monday, Tuesday, one team with a Tuesday, Wednesday, or sorry, 2 teams Tuesday, Wednesday. And then Friday, Saturday, just a ton of back-to-backs. Games are loaded up. That's definitely what happened when the season started. I was like, I can keep up with these games. I'm watching most of the NBA games. And then the weekend came and everyone was on back-to-backs. And I was like, oh yeah, there's like over 1,000 games every season. You can't watch everything. Like, you got to pick and choose. But something I want to mention right here, you see Sunday, I've got a bunch of teams that are highlighted that, in fact, every single team that plays Sunday, I've marked as a back-to-back. That's because next week, Monday, every team in the league plays. There's 15 games, all 30 teams. And I was like, what? That doesn't, it's because it's election day next week, Tuesday here in the US, and there's no NBA games for that. So it means every team plays Monday. So at the end of your week, you might want to scoop up a player that plays on Sunday. You'll get the extra game on Monday. That said, since every single team is playing, if they're low down your, roster, you're not going to squeeze them in because you're going to have an option of everyone, assuming your team is healthy. So don't push too hard with it, although it could be a good option. I'm still not jumping to conclusions on back-to-back automatically means people are going to rest, but I am tracking it. This week, I feel like it's going to give me enough of a picture. We know the usual suspects for it, but even a team like Brooklyn here, they've got 4 games, 2 sets of back-to-backs. I will be watching and curious to see if we're for sure seeing any resting there. Boston's got a back-to-back. Chicago, I think we're going to see Levine resting on back-to-backs. They just got managed that knee. It's a bummer, but it is what it is. So we're going to track some of this stuff. The Bucks, Giannis, I don't expect him to rest on the back-to-back. They normally just tighten up his minutes and have him play in all the games. So people will handle it differently. With New Orleans, they've already been dealing with some injuries. So, is Zion back and does he rest on back-to-back? I assume he is. We'll see some of these things, right? And after 3 weeks of it, I'll start considering them more of a trend that we can start counting on and assuming people are going to miss games besides just Dave saying, Lowry's pretty old. Jimmy Butler's getting up there. They're probably going to rest some guys because it's not true for everyone, right? Chris Paul doesn't always rest on back-to-backs and he's obviously getting up there. For streaming, we got a pretty balanced week. Like you can use a lot of days for streaming. Like we said last week, this is great. I wonder if it's going to keep up all season or if it's just early season stuff. So if we look down at the bottom, Monday 7, Tuesday 4, Thursday 2, Saturday 8, Sunday 4. So Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday are the really high value targets. If you pick up someone, you're almost certainly going to play them because there's not many games. Monday and Saturday, you could probably get them in the lineup. It's the Wednesday, Friday games where your waiver moves aren't going to be super useful in your daily change leagues because most of your team is already playing. With that in mind, my favorite teams, if I'm actually trying to pick someone up off waivers to play this week, are Oklahoma City and Orlando. They only have 3 games, but they're all on good streaming days. I find that probably most valuable. You could also take a look at Brooklyn. They've got 4 games. 3 of them are on the streaming days. And like I said, they've got a back-to-back to start the week. I mean, they've got 2 back-to-backs, but specifically, they've got the Monday, Tuesday back-to-back. So if you scoop someone up as you're watching this video on Sunday or Monday morning or whatever, you can get useful play right there, Indiana and Chicago as their opponents. To a lesser extent, the only other team that really jumped out at me is Golden State. They only have 3 games. 2 are on the streaming days, but those 2 are on the lower volume days at Miami, at Orlando in the middle of the week. I'd be interested in a pickup there if you can grab someone for the Tuesday, Thursday matchup. Most of the teams didn't get 2 of these super low volume days. Chicago did, but they're spread out. So depending on how you're using your waivers, the 2 games in the middle don't really help you. If you want to pick up Ayo, I mean, he was out with chest contusion, but if you want to pick up Ayo Dosunmu and use him, go for it. And, just know you're probably not going to get him in there in the middle of the week. That's okay. If you want to see the schedules again, go ahead, back, pause, rewatch the video, give me all the minutes of watch time. I don't care. But really, the link is down below. Go ahead and click it. You can check it out. Any questions, hit me up in the comments down below. And we're going to get into the waiver wire. I'm going to start with some trends that I'm seeing and kind of give you my thoughts in case you already jumped on this or you're debating on pulling the trigger. Bismack Biyombo, 31% rostered. Ayton went out and Biyombo came in to play the second half. He got 11, 13, and 2. This was on the 28th. I'm recording this on the 30th. They play Houston tonight. I have not seen an update yet on Ayton timetable. So by the time you're watching this, you maybe know more in the future of what's happening. But if Ayton's going to be out, Biyombo is a strong pickup at 31% rostered. He's available in 70% of leagues. He should be rostered if we think Ayton's going to be out. I don't think it's bad to just use an end of this week 2 if you've got a move left to scoop him up and see, even if you end up cutting him and it's not of value to you. That's okay. It's worth the upswing if you need it. Phoenix has 3 games next week. I should mention that. Bones Hyland. I think people got a little frustrated with him as a fantasy owner. I like Bones as a player, but if you're looking here at these stat lines, I get it. He had the 1, 1, and 3 at 14 minutes. 15 with 4 3-pointers was good. Only 18 minutes, 17 minutes. He played 24 minutes, so a little bit up. 7 3-pointers, 26 points. I'm not counting on that to continue. 7 3-pointers is just a lot. He had a lot of usage in this game, especially for only 24 minutes. He's rostered in 48% of leagues, so he's available in half. I like Bones. I didn't expect him to be out there, but based on his play, I think it's fine if you cut bait with him. Denver only has 2 games this week, so unless you're really pumped about his long-term prospects, I'm not going to recommend you pick him up right now. Whoever does probably is going to end up cutting bait and moving on. For what it's worth, Denver's 2 games are on low volume days. They play OKC in San Antonio, so you like the matchups. Thursday, Saturday, maybe you go for it, but you can probably get more bang for your dollar if you go somewhere else with that move. Caris Levert's also seeing some uptick. He's 67% rostered, so he's only available in about 30% of you. He only went up 10% based on the numbers I'm looking at here, but he was already pretty well owned, so of course that's the case. He had a huge game, 6 3-pointers, 41 points, 7 assists, 3 steals in an overtime game. I don't count on that continuing. What we were seeing from Levert before, I think is probably more likely. 10 points, 5 assists, maybe a steal, couple 3-pointers. Like, that's good. That's valuable, but it's also a bench guy. You plug him in when you can. Otherwise, he just goes the rest. If you need to cut him to get other people in on good streaming days, go for it. I think that's okay. If you want to pick him up, that's fine, but don't like be blowing all your fab money or something just because he had 41 points. That's not going to continue. A couple of names we talked about last week. I want to bring them up again. Ayo Dosunmu, 66% rostered. I still think he's better on the basketball court for the Bulls than he is for your fantasy team. He's fine. He's not really hurting you. I mean, he's out right now with a chest contusion. I'm assuming he's back. If you want to pick him up, go for it. I just don't think he's going to wow you or help you in any specific category. So he's just giving you some little numbers. I rather have a higher swing at potential, such as Kevin Huerter, Kings. We talked about him last week. I think his ownership stayed down because they only had the 2 games last week. He's at 52%. When we talked about it last week, I said I was watching. He had 5 threes. He had 18 points, 5 assists against the Clippers. This is great. He had a couple meh games, and then he just had 7 3-pointers, 27 points, 7 assists. Now, I just said meh to Levert doing that, saying he won't keep it up. I just got a little more faith that Huerter's going to get the opportunity there with Sacramento to keep doing this, getting you some good threes. He's not always going to shoot 72% like he just did, but if you're looking for threes, it's available in half of leagues. I think it's worth a look. Sacramento has 3 games this week. 2 of them are good streaming days. Unfortunately, they're a little spread out. I don't think I talked about Jared Vanderbilt last week. Maybe I did. I like him as a player. I'm not recommending him super for pickup. He's 76% rostered, so this is really only for shallow leagues. He's out there in about a quarter of leagues. I was going to skip over him completely, but I feel like last year I was kind of like, Bobby Portis, like he'll do this, but you can probably get more if you pick him up. And then Bobby Portis was picked up and rostered almost all season long. Vanderbilt might be that guy this season. So I figured he's worth a mention, but I'm usually taking bigger swings with what I hope for the waiver wire of either locking up someone that's exciting all season or playing them just on specific days and knowing that I'm going to cut and turn and burn those last roster spots. Vanderbilt's fine, but I think he's like Ayo, where I like him more as a basketball player than your fantasy player because I don't expect him to pop too much. All right, let's talk about people I'm more excited about adding. Dennis Smith Jr., talked to him last week. I want to bring it up again. 59% rostered. Rozier's missed some time here. He's kept playing. Now his steal numbers come down a little, but still, he gets a lot of steals. Despite the fact they got a 0 and 1 before that, we're still looking at 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 0. That's a lot of steals in his time he's played this season. He's going to play this many minutes, and I think they're going to need him to for Charlotte. I think you pick him up, and you could probably hang on to him for all season. Available in 40% of leagues. This can help in shallow or deep leagues. He's out there in a decent amount. I'm cautiously optimistic about Dillon Brooks. Rostered in 50% of leagues. He was out to start the season, so I don't think he got drafted, or if he did, he got cut in a lot of leagues. Started out slow. You can look at these, but they put him in for his, high 20s in minutes. 4 points, whatever, 11 points, okay. Then Ja was just out against Utah. Utah won. It was a pretty good game. They won by 1. He got 30 points, 3 steals, 4 3-pointers. Dillon Brooks isn't afraid to shoot. If Ja's going to be out again on Monday, and I don't know that he is, they play Utah again, so we can kind of expect these results. But Dillon Brooks is going to get a lot of minutes. He's available in 43% of leagues. I'm going to be tracking this. Is he for sure a play every single time you have him? No, but he's probably better than a lot of the guys you're going to be adding on the waiver wire. He's just above that line for me of guys I might consider keeping, especially because we kind of expect him to miss some games. And while Dillon Brooks isn't the backup point guard on the team, he does take over a lot of shot attempts. I don't want to say take over scoring because that can have differing results depending on the night, but he does take over with a lot of shot attempts. So I think it could be helpful if you want to give Brooks a look. I said cautiously optimistic for Dillon Brooks. More on the cautious side with Norm Powell. I'm going to take a look. He just had a big game. He started slow this season. He's got 21 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 3-pointers. Is that going to keep up for the Clippers? He's got a decent schedule this week with 4 games, 2 of them on streaming days at either end of the schedule. So if you're looking for some threes and points, I'd be curious to see what it looks like come Monday. I don't think I'm grabbing him right now. He's 44% rostered, so he's available in most leagues. He could be a value, get you a bunch of points, and sometimes points are hard to find on the waiver wire. Depends on what it goes, but with the Clippers in particular, we expect guys to be resting pretty often there, which means that on any given night, Powell might get the green light a little bit more as guys are out. This whole group I've been talking about, the last 3 names, are kind of season-long ads, or at least I hope they are. Add to that group Brook Lopez. He's 77% rostered, so he's not available in most leagues. But if he's out there in your league, you should be grabbing him. He missed most of last season for us, at least for the fantasy terms. Came out big, just had 5 3-pointers, 21 points, 6 rebounds. I'm not expecting that many 3-pointers all the time, but he is a guy who will get you 6 to 8 rebounds on average. At least that's what I'm expecting from him. And like a 3-pointer or 2 per game and a couple blocks. That's great in centers where it's sometimes hard to find, especially to find threes and blocks. If he's out there, you should grab him. On the other end of the spectrum, I said last week I was excited, hoping to talk about Jalen Williams, the rookie, the good Jalen Williams for OKC. He's back. He was out with the injury, but he's only rostered in 28% of leagues. He played 1 game since coming back against Dallas. 13 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 steals, and a block. Shot 62% from the floor. I'm not expecting that to maintain. Now, those percentages, the steals, he is a rookie, but I like him a lot. OKC should have enough minutes to give him. I'm interested in him. He's 28% rostered, so 70% of you could go scoop him up. I think this is a good long-term flyer if you're interested. And this week's a great time to test it out because OKC, 3 games, all on low-volume days. Grab him, plug him in, see what happens. If it doesn't work out, we'll talk about who to replace him with next week. Sticking with OKC's good schedule, if you're just trying to find someone to stream this week, give Tre Mann a look. I think people have been cutting bait on him a little bit, although my screenshot says he's been picked up in 26% of leagues, despite the fact that he only had 4 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists last game, and a steal. But OKC's got a good schedule. He's 35% rostered, so you can pick him up in pretty much any league. Get him in there this week. Just use him to pile up numbers on the low volume days, and then you just cut him next week for someone else. He's fine. We're going to probably be talking about him a lot this season because he's in that groove of the guy that, I'll say before, I've said Patrick Beverley. Derrick Rose is a good example of a guy who's often out on the waiver wire, who's valuable when it's the right days, but maybe not someone you're hanging on to all season long. If you're looking for blocks and steals this week, I'd give Jaden McDaniels a check. 74% rostered, so this is more for shallow leagues, but it gets you a lot of blocks and steals. You can look at this right here. 4 blocks last game, 2 steals, 3 blocks before that. So he can specialize in there. He had the 120-point game, but he's also had games with 4 points and 6 points. I'm not expecting you to pick him up for the other stats, but if you're looking for blocks and steals, you can get him in that. Honestly, I'm surprised he's rostered in 3/4 of a league, but if you're looking for those specific stats, I would go for it. Minnesota has 3 games this week. 2 are on the low volume days, so he can help you out. I also kind of like their schedule. I mean, Phoenix and Milwaukee are good teams, but they do play a bit quicker. And then Houston is not a great team, and they also play a bit quicker. So there's a good chance he could get you some of those numbers there if you need him for a week. If he's not available in your league, I would give a look to Bol Bol. Orlando's been playing him kind of limited minutes, right there around 20. He's not going to get you the steals like McDaniels does, but he will definitely get you blocks. That's a hard stat to come by in fantasy. So if you're just looking to pick him up, Bol Bol can play power forward or center. So if you're in a league where somehow you can grab Brook Lopez and Bol Bol and get them into your lineups, you could instantly get an influx of blocks into your team, and that could really help you win this week. Orlando's got 3 games. We talked about it. All 3 on low volume days. So you can plug him in and get out of those 3 games like 8 to 12 blocks. I think that's a reasonable range. If you get 8 to 12 blocks from a single player, that definitely can swing your week in a single category league. I considered adding Trey Murphy to this list. He's 63% roster, but if you're looking for threes, you can give it a shot. The Pelicans don't have a great week for streaming. There's 3 games, 1 on a low volume day, and they've been missing some guys. I don't know exactly how it's going to work out. Along those lines, I'd say I've got Naji Marshall on my watch list. He's only 5% rostered, and I don't know when the other players are coming back when that happens. Naji's going to take a step back, but he's been interesting when he's been playing well, and we expect Zion to miss time throughout the season. Hopefully he stays healthy for all the season, and they're just managing him. But if we take a look here at Naji Marshall, last game, 21 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal. Before that, 15, 3, and 1. His minutes jumped from 13 minutes to upper 30s. This is clearly because of the injuries. So it's a watch list only, but when we're hearing someone's out or there's a stretch for the Pelicans, I'm going to be interested in giving Naji Marshall a look. Other guys for the watch list, Josh Richardson. He's getting some more minutes now. What adds him to this list is that the Spurs cut Primo, right? So if we look here, 33 minutes last game, 31 minutes after that. Josh Richardson, 11, 3, and 10 with 2 steals, 12, 5, 6, 1 steal. He's going to give you a little bit of everything. Shooting guard, small forward eligible. He's available in 75% of leagues. He's listed as out right now. I think it's an illness, so he's going to miss a game. Don't know how long it's going to be. But if he's going to get extra minutes, the Spurs have plenty of time to give him. I'd be interested in this. This could be a pop situation. Not Popovich, but he could pop for your roster and throwing pens around. Go ahead and take a look here. If he's out, I'm not saying you have to do it, and the Spurs don't necessarily have the greatest schedule. 3 games, 1 good streaming here. But if he's going to take off, you might not have a choice. You want to grab him now. He's available in 3/4 of leagues. I'm only putting him on the watch list. Along the same lines, Sochan, he's only rostered in 15% for the Spurs, or 15% fantasy league. Spurs new player. I haven't actually, I've watched some of the Spurs games, but I haven't focused in on him. So I don't actually have a formulated opinion about what I'm seeing. He's available. Let's see what happens. I actually think Sochan might be out because of sickness too, which is kind of funny. So he's been, I don't want to say a hot pickup. He's only rostered in 15% of leagues, but I saw him moving there a little bit. I'm going to keep tracking it. I say throw him on the watch list with Naji. And that's going to do it for this week. I tried to mix it up. Some shallow leagues, deep leagues. Guys, I'm not sure on, just talking on trends. Tell me what you think about that. Leave comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Hope week 2 is going well for you. And then I want you to get ready for week 3. You know what to do. Go out, win your week. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, please hit the like button and leave a comment down below. It helps me grow the channel. If you want more videos like this, hit subscribe or even the little bell will give you alerts. And I'll be back soon with another video for you.